All right, so let's talk about eggs, shall we? Let's put all our eggs in this basket tonight. So could the chicken and the egg crisis be related to COVID treatments? This is a crazy story, and we're going to present you with some news and let you connect the dots. Because this is one of those things where it could easily go off the rails, and you can say, Clayton's crazy. Okay. Only my wife gets to say that. We're not saying that these things are in any way related, but we're not saying that either. So we're going to present these things to you, and then you can draw your own conclusions. 2 years ago, studies began to show that egg yolk antibodies could act as a neutralizing agent against COVID. Eggs are healthy. Wow, wait a minute. Eating egg yolks, natural stuff, could actually help me against COVID? Interesting. Studies began to show this. Not me. Studies started showing this. From the Journal of the International Immunopharmacology...
Pharmacological.
Immunopharmacology.
From the Journal of International Immunopharmacology. Okay, so it's misspelled here in my notes. Anyway, from the Journal of International Immunopharmacology. I'm not a doctor, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. So that is the journal that published this. Can you imagine being the receptionist that has to answer the phone every time? Hello, thank you for calling the International Immunopharmacology. This is Janice. Can I help you? Hold on, can I put you on hold? Hold on 1 second. Hello, thank you for calling International Immunopharmacology. I guess you probably get pretty good at it after about 20 minutes, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So here is their article. Here is what was published in January of 2021. Here is the study, in case you want to find it for yourself. You can read it. And here is the abstract. So I'm going to read just this section here in blue. We investigated, this is from the study, we investigated the neutralizing effect of anti-spike S1 on SARS-CoV-2 pseudovirus, as well as its inhibitory effect on the binding of the coronavirus spike protein mutants to human ACE2. Our results showed that the anti-spike showed significant neutralizing potency against SARS-CoV-2 pseudovirus, various spike protein mutants, and even SARS-CoV in vitro. It might even be a feasible tool for the prevention and control of ongoing COVID-19, this study says, based on egg yolks. So this is a prohibitive treatment for people who test positive for COVID. Similar research was done at UC Davis last year. Researchers immunized hens with COVID vaccines and then used the yolk of their eggs and found that they produced protective antibodies and could prevent illness in humans. Here's the study so you can find it yourself. You can look it up. Hyper-immunized chickens produced neutralizing antibodies against SARS-CoV-2. That's the study. Note that these researchers did not inject humans with this immunized egg yolk yet. They just found that this is an affordable and viable option for increasing COVID antibodies. Then, all the while, eggs started disappearing. 2 weeks ago, we presented you with all manner of videos about homestead chickens not producing eggs anymore. Why? Well, first, we'll revisit that in a minute for those of you that need some context there. But look at what is happening to professional chicken farms across the country and around the world. Here's a factory, Hillendale Farms. It bills itself as one of the country's top egg producers, raising over 20 million chickens for eggs. This is the fire that killed around 100,000 chickens. The fire happened last Saturday, and no cause has been reported yet.
I don't know. I think they got a rooster in custody right now.
It's a chicken in the hen house, or a rooster in the hen house.
Rooster in the hen, yeah.
Rooster in the hen house. You know, it's kind of funny that they don't have a cause figured out yet. They are very good at figuring out the causes of fires and finding out where the incendiary moment took place. Where was the ignition space? I mean, I've interviewed a lot of these firefighters over the years, and there's experts. And if you've got something that's producing 100,000 chickens, 20 million eggs, that is a huge source of revenue and jobs and infrastructure for that city. They are going to investigate this, but they can't figure it out. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, how many of the also, because we covered the story where just like all of these food places were just somehow catching fire, and a lot of them didn't have causes. Like, what happened? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Any idea? Officials estimated 100,000 hens died in the Connecticut fire. Here's the Associated Press. Connecticut officials confirmed Monday it's one of several such fires that have killed millions of chickens around the country over the past decade. The agency also said the impact on egg prices was expected to be minimal to none. Okay. Again, we're not saying that this is related, but we're not saying we're not saying that either. But here is another dot that we're connecting for you. Namely, that people who own chickens are still reporting that their hens are not producing lately on store-bought feed. So this is a follow-up to a story we brought you 2 weeks ago. And these same chicken farmers and more now are coming out saying, we are experiencing the same things. Our chickens simply are not producing eggs anymore after using the store-bought feed. Listen.
So there is a debate online right now of whether or not chicken feed and what brand you're feeding your chickens is causing them to not lay as well anymore. So I want to show you something, and you can do with this information whatever you will.
Everything your chicken gets stored in what's called their crop. There it gets broken down so the chicken can pass it out of its body. This is another reason why grit is really important, because it helps to break those things down. Chickens go number 1 and number 2 from the same place. So soft.
I recorded that video last summer. I've been adding water and soaking my chicken feed since I got them, and they're about 2 years old now. The water expands the feed, it stretches it longer, you can warm it up, you can cool it down, it's easier to digest. But somewhere between summer and fall of last year, the feed quit absorbing the water. It would sit 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and a lot of it would still be in pellet form. And I'm speaking specifically about Producer Pride pellets from Tractor Supply. So I quit adding water because it was pointless, and I would give the pellets dry to my chickens, and there would be times where they would let it sit for days and not touch it. The temperatures outside had dropped, they were molting, the feed wasn't doing what I wanted it to, so I changed the one thing I had control over, and I started buying feed from a local feed store. The difference is noticeable immediately. As soon as you open the bag, because it smelled so much better. I don't know what happened to Producer's Pride at some point. It doesn't have a smell anymore. The one from the local feed store smells great, looks great, has a better color to it, and my birds love it. Now, I'm not saying this is a problem for everyone, and I don't know if they've changed their recipe. This is just my personal experience. Because I don't know about you guys, but on this homestead and this economy, I don't have the time or the money to invest in layers that aren't laying. So yeah, if your chickens have stopped laying, what do you have to lose? Even if you spend a little bit more money on the feed that you would have to buy to replace the feed you're currently using, I'd say it's worth it if you start getting eggs again, and especially right now.
So Cabin Girl in our chat says Tractor Supply, Purina, Nestle feed, all problems. And I see people saying in our chat room right now saying this is war. Like, this is not a joke.
I think what we're seeing is the results of Bill Gates buying up all the farmland. He is at the top of all of these lists somehow. And I'm not saying he is. I'm not saying this is like he's part of this, but it's just like when you start to put these things together and you're like, he's buying up all this land, then all of a sudden, and he's so into, the vaccine technology and stuff. It's like now food is producing things that are stopping animals from producing. There's egg shortages. And it's like, it just seems too coincidental, in my opinion.
It reminds me, like, if you had like a big whiteboard, like someone's like trying to solve a crime, right? And you've got like pieces on a board. Like, okay, wait a second. So all of these fires are happening at all these chicken producers. So we're killing all these chickens somehow. Why? Why are these fires breaking out at these food processing plants all across the country? Why are chickens being destroyed? And then why are these eggs not being produced anymore? And all of these farmers are reporting the same thing. With these tractor feed supplies and Purina and Nestle, these other things that people are reporting. So now look at this woman who says that this is the chickens telling us that something is wrong. Like a woman who is not menstruating. This is what she says. Listen.
Is the commercial feed the reason so many people's chickens have not been laying at all?
Oh, it's the feed. In fact, I would go so far as to say that chickens are starving if you're feeding them commercial feed. Because, they tell you that if they stop laying eggs, you need to check the food, make sure that they're getting enough, because if they don't get enough food, then they're, obviously they're going to stop laying eggs. It's like when you have, a girl who stops eating, she's starving herself, right? And then her period stops. Kind of the same concept. At least that's how I read it. We didn't know there was anything wrong with our chickens. We thought the reason why they had, dropped in egg production was simply because it was winter. Until the day we decided to give them a bunch of table scraps that we had because we'd had a whole bunch of leftovers. And then the next day we had 14 eggs. It went from 1 egg a day between 9 chickens to 14. Just because we gave them table scraps. You have got to feed your chickens something else, because that commercial feed, I don't know what it is, but it's not food.
That's what we do. We have a lot of chickens here at the Redacted headquarters. And every morning we cook eggs. I cook eggs every morning for the kids. Make breakfast, scrambled eggs, fried eggs, made waffles this morning with eggs right from the chickens. And we feed them, compost. So, and chicken feed that we get, but mostly the compost. And we were starting to see a decline in our chicken production and the egg production when we were given the feed. So it's mostly, we'll get, like whether it's just the basic compost that we have from different scraps of food. And they love it. And then they're also free range. So they're walking around eating bugs. They're out running around the forest area that we have here. And
it's also well known in the United States, the majority of, like, if you see corn in the United States anywhere, chances are it's feed corn and it's genetically modified corn. And we don't know what it's genetically modified with at this point. So it's like most of the corn and that the United States produces is going to animals. I mean, even I got in an argument with a company called BurgerFi because they said vegetarian fed animals and cows. And I was like, vegetarian fed, that could mean genetically modified corn. And what they said was they're grass fed up until the point that they're taken to the slaughterhouse. And then to get fattened up at the slaughterhouse, they're fed grain, which means whatever these animals are eating, just genetically modified corn or whatever is in it, that's passed down to you when you eat that burger.
Right.
So I'm like very adamant about knowing what my meat is eating before I eat it. And it's getting harder and harder to figure it out.
Oh, they don't want you to know about it. Now they're changing the classification of it. So don't even ask questions about genetic modified anymore. They don't even want that to be labeled anyway. They don't want you to know about it. They want to change those guidelines. And that's what we're dealing with. So, we talked about earlier, you can draw your own conclusions from these things. Okay. I'm not saying one way or the other that we have the answers here. I'm saying when studies started coming out showing the benefits of eggs against these viruses, and then suddenly these eggs start disappearing and the chickens start disappearing, you draw your own conclusions. But something's going on, and these farmers are not lying about it, and these fires are continuing to happen, and chickens are being slaughtered. And the price of eggs is also skyrocketing. So something is happening.
Well, not just eggs. Well, I told you last week that I saw somebody saying that chickens were like $25, $35 a chicken now. And I thought I was like, that seems cheap to me. But you're like, no, they're like €2 or €3 or something you said you got them for?
Oh, yeah. Chickens, we get them like for $2, basically.
Yeah. So I had no idea that $20 was expensive.
That's ridiculous. Yeah. So... yeah, something's going on. Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.